everyone. Thank you so much. Welcome back to Build. I'm your host, Brittany Jones-Cooper, and today I'm chatting with Ann Curry. The award-winning journalist has a career spanning 30 years, including her time at the Today Show. And today she's here to discuss Chasing the Cure, a live show where viewers and a panel of top doctors try to help patients find a diagnosis for their puzzling ailments. Take a look.
My name's Charlie. I've been diagnosed with arthritis, spondylosis, hypercalciuria. None of it makes sense. If this show and these doctors help me find what's wrong, then what else is there? I have everything once I have my health.
Chasing the Cure is an effort to unleash the power of crowdsourcing. When they're watching these cases play out on television, they can call in, write in, and give their perspectives.
This is so bizarre and so atypical.
I wasn't born this way.
We'll investigate these mystery illnesses in stories that give hope.
They don't know what it is. He was burning from the inside out.
You get enough people involved, we're gonna figure it out.
I'm ready to live my life to the fullest.
Hi, Charlie. We have some exciting news for you.
Please put your hands together for Ann Curry.
Glad to see you.
Hello, Ann.
Hi, Brittany.
How you doing today?
I'm doing really well, and I'm glad to see all of you. It's a pretty packed room here.
This group has like amazing energy too.
Awesome.
I'm excited that they're here today. I'm excited that you're here today.
Thank you.
This show, the premise is unlike anything I have ever seen. I cannot wait for people to see this. Tell me why you were interested, or what was the pitch that got you interested in being a part of it?
Well, the beginning of this, which is really interesting, is that a member of our team, her name is Jen O'Connell, noticed on Facebook a post from her son's teacher. And the post was saying, my husband is sick, we don't know what it is, they're having trouble diagnosing him, and we can't pay for it, we need any help we can get. And when we think about it, this problem has existed for a long time, but because of social media, we now have heard more and more about these cases. It sort of bubbled up as something that we're now becoming increasingly aware of. And she thought, could we use live television to amplify these cases? And so she reached out to me, we talked about it, and at that time it was just sort of a nascent idea, and then some other people got involved, and it sort of has been a snowball rolling downhill in terms of trying to figure out how can you make this work morally, how can you make this work legally, how can you basically do this in a way that puts patient first. And so what we've created is a way to directly connect sick people who are really needing help directly with some of the best minds, some of the brightest minds in medicine directly, and also connecting them also with anyone using social media, website, phones, emails, anyone out there who might know something that can help. So it could be a medical professional, or it could be somebody who, has similar symptoms, or her mother or father, something. So the idea is that when we're alone, it's rough. But when we're connected, there's a better chance that it's not going to be as hard. And that's what the whole idea is. And we don't know how it really is ultimately going to work, but because I've worked so hard to try to give voice to the voiceless, for more than 30 years, I kind of know how it's going to work. I think people are going to be helped. I think it's going to be a mitzvah. I think it already is.
Yeah, I think people are going to be helped, and there is just that social aspect of healing. Just feeling heard. Even if there isn't a cure for a certain person, I think just having that community around them and having other people who have similar ailments and just being able to connect.
You're absolutely right, Brittany, because there actually is data, science that leads us to believe that even the act of being cared for is healing. The idea that someone has cared for us enough, even if we can't find the treatment, if we can't find the diagnosis, just the fact that someone cared for us helps us. So, and this is about connecting, it's about connecting, and not just connecting to help the patient, but also to democratize medical data. Every single one of us in this room and listening now probably is lucky to get 15 minutes with your doctor, right? Maybe 10 minutes, 5 minutes with your doctor. And the reason is because medicine, while we have stunningly good quality medicine in this country, it is not available to most Americans. for a lot of reasons. And hopefully that's not an ambulance right now. But this is the problem. And so what do we do? What do we do about this problem? And so what we're trying to do is punch a hole, or at least punch the wall of the things that silo us. We're siloed by our medical insurance. We're siloed by where we live. We're siloed by whether we can find the right specialists. And what we're trying to do is punch a hole in that silo and say, what happens if you just directly connect people? We're connected to 52,000 physicians across this country so far through these major medical centers we've made relationships with. Plus, we've got behind-the-scenes doctors, a social worker, a psychiatrist, an ethicist behind the scenes, and then we've got this large group of doctors we found who are going to be in front of the camera and who we can call in to help. So, look, I think there's a certain amount of unknowing. We don't know how all of these cases are going to go, whether we can crack these cases for these people so they can suffer less. But we're going to try. We're going to try. And that makes you kind of fearless, doesn't it, when you can try to do good? And not only that, we're going to connect them with you. So if you at home call in or email and you know something, or even if you just send a text or send a message of support, that's you doing an act of kindness at a time when we all want to see more of this in our world. This kind of compassion, which I think we're all missing, and we're blinded to this idea that it may not exist. Of course it exists. It's a fundamental part of being human. But we're blinded, I think, by some of the darkness in our times that has sort of diminished our chance to see it.
You're right. I do think people are looking for more and more opportunities to be connected. And so this would provide that for them. Let's talk about some of the cases. I actually went online, and people can submit their own cases.
Yes.
And it really runs the gamut. So what are some of the ones that have stuck out to you, maybe some of the odd ailments that the show will
Well, one of the cases has resonated with the most people so far. And you're right, there's a chasingthecurelive.com website where people can upload their cases. They have to register, you have to be verified to be in there, so we kind of create a kind of safe space for patients. One of the most commented on cases that has been uploaded so far is the case of Mike, who was coming back from vacation with his wife, and from that moment on in 2014 has suffered, and it's something that a lot of us may have experienced, because we ate too much one day or whatever, this bloating in his stomach, but it's not regular bloating. It's the size of a basketball. It's so painful that it has altered his personality. He's almost hard to live with because he's struggling so much, since 2014, he's not been diagnosed. He's lost weight because eating is hard. He's gotten really thin. He used to be an outdoorsman. Nobody can figure it out. So we put him in front of our panel. And so think about that. You're sick. You've been sick a long time. And all of a sudden, some really bright minds and these great, young, smart, and older as well doctors, these whippersnappers, are sitting on the couch. And you get an entire panel you get to talk to, right? And you can ask them questions. Well, one of them, a gastroenterologist, and I've had to learn how to say a lot of these really long words, came up with several theories. First of all, he's never had a colonoscopy. It's been 2014. No one's got him a colonoscopy. He hasn't been tested for Crohn's disease. Which is a really devastating disease. But she said, wait a minute, you just came back from vacation. And he sort of told his doctors it was the Caribbean, but actually it was Mexico. So the doctors weren't looking for what she basically came up with. Wait a minute, it was Mexico. Well, there actually is something called Chagas that you can get in Mexico, which is carried by insects that basically, while you're sleeping or for whatever, they land on your face, and they basically leave something on your face that you can ingest and create all kinds of havoc with your digestive system that could totally explain these symptoms that you're having. So suddenly, and I said, well, so how do you figure that out? And she said, it's a simple blood test. So wait a minute. So why don't we make sure he gets that simple blood test to figure out whether he's got Chagas? So we're trying to basically, part of it is just, one of the things I've learned is that doctors are investigators, and they have to try to diagnose means to get all the data, and sometimes they don't have enough data. So we can start to rule out what it might not be, I think is what they're hoping to do. So hopefully he will be better. There's another patient who has been diagnosed with 10 separate diseases in 8 years. 27, mother of two, struggling. She can't even walk up a flight of stairs, and nobody can tell her what's wrong with her. She gets these 10 separate diagnoses, but when she deals with them, it doesn't really help. So, and then another case of a girl who woke up one morning, a 13-year-old who had no hearing in one of her ears. Nobody could figure it out. She's scared that she's going to lose hearing in the other ear. She starts to limit her life. She used to be a surfer. Now she's not a surfer. She's not hanging with her friends because she's afraid of losing hearing in the other ear. And so we put her in front of a bunch of doctors, our panel, and they said, most people don't realize this, and if you sat longer with your doctor, maybe you'd know this, but infections, getting a cold, is one of the leading causes of hearing loss. So people don't realize this. You should know this. And there's nothing you can do as a parent to prevent your child from having the conditions that might suddenly, and it's rare, it doesn't happen all the time. It's like lightning striking. So should you get back on your surfboard, young lady? Absolutely. And that was like a revelation for her. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to connect people so they don't have to suffer as much.
And there were a lot of case files on the site. I know the show was 90 minutes live.
Yeah,
so
live.
How many cases?
Simulcast on 2 separate networks, and then it's also online. It's like live. I know,
So
like kind of like this.
How many cases will we get to see in that amount of time? Or
Right.
I mean, because it seems like there's so many cases on the site, you have to really kind of pick and choose.
Right. I mean, we're trying to sort that out because we've been looking at the cases, we're trying to figure out, well, some of these cases need more time. Then we first started off with like 5 cases in one broadcast as we've been gearing up and trying to plan. And we realized we wanted to give each patient more time. And so it looks like we might be 3 or 4 cases in an hour and a half, which is a lot because what we'll be doing is we'll be bringing in different specialists, but basically, and using a lot of graphics and data to help you understand something about your own body. It's about these patients, but it's also about you and how you work and what doesn't work and how you prevent things. So I think what I really hope is that anyone watching will come away having a better sense about how to live better and hopefully longer.
I think that's the takeaway. I think people lack awareness when it comes to their own body and their own health, and we kind of muscle through a lot of things. And I even think for a lot of people watching a show like this, they may stop ignoring their symptoms or, just pay a little more attention. And I think that could also help people diagnose things earlier than later.
I've started to wonder if this is maybe a symptom of our times. I've noticed that we don't stop to breathe as often as we once did. We're constantly distracted from meaningful conversations by a buzz. It's not just a doorbell or a phone call. It's our phone going off every couple minutes and or calling. So I think that you're right. We live in a time where we're going at an accelerated pace, and it's very hard to listen to your body. It's hard to listen to your mind. It's hard to listen to your heart. And so I've actually personally attempted a process of trying to slow things down periodically. I take a deep breath and I hold it for 7, and then I let it go for 8. I do that a couple of times, my heart rate slows down. I kind of give myself space to think deeper. And I think when you do, you care more, not just about others, but about yourself.
I know you recently interviewed the Dalai Lama.
I did.
Did that have an extra effect on you wanting to calm down?
Oh boy, just sitting with him is a calm. I mean, he's like, oh boy, okay. He sits, and when he sits in his big chair, he sits and he takes off his shoes. I could do that now, but maybe that might offend you. He takes off his shoes and he crosses his legs on his big chair. And his message is really fundamentally about compassion. I've interviewed him a number of times, but this last time I did it for National Geographic magazine. It's in the August issue, the piece I wrote. And so I went to Dharamsala, which is a big schlep and a lot of jet lag, right? But yet it was completely worth it. I basically went to his private quarters and to where he prays every morning for several hours. And what he does, praise is the word I use, but it's essentially, people can call it meditation, but essentially what he's doing is practicing. He's practicing having compassion. He's practicing trying not to be pulled by the negative emotions. He's practicing responding not with jealousy and anger and hate or any of those things, practicing responding with positivity, hope, compassion, caring. And it's, I think that we all have, it's clear to me based on, at least in my own mind, it's clear to me that we are all darkness and light. We all have good and we all have bad. We are, however, what we practice. And so when I see, in my view, so when I see the Dalai Lama, who's in his life made a lifetime of practicing as an example, which is his job to be an example to lead others towards compassion. It's really remarkable. It was a great assignment by National Geographic magazine. I'm really proud of the piece. I hope it brings people gives them a feeling of being there as I was at his knee.
I'm interested what connects you to stories these days. I mean, since you began your career, the state of media has changed dramatically.
You mean journalism or media in general? Just all of it?
Let's say journalism specifically, storytelling has just changed. And so for you at this point in your career, what is it that connects you to a story that makes you want to tell it? Because I'm sure you get a lot of offers.
Right, so I've really chosen projects that stay true to the idea of giving voice to the voiceless, to those who are not heard. I know from decades of work that these are powerful stories and that no one should experience difficulties without being seen. I mean, okay, I'll tell you just really quickly, I remember being in a refugee camp on the edge of Darfur as I was covering the war in Darfur, and I turned around away from the sun, it was right behind me, and I saw a group of children, and that happened all the time, and I'm a photographer, so I brought up my camera and started taking pictures as I normally do. But one boy fell to his knees. He was dressed in what looked like a sheet that was ripped and dirty, and I could tell immediately from looking at his face that he was highly traumatized. I mean, he was maybe 10, highly traumatized, the look in his eyes, the look on his face. He fell to his knees as if he saw a vision. Me in my crisp white shirt, the non-iron kind. I was like, I'm sure it was such a contrast for him. And he's like, what am I looking at? So instinctively, because I'm a photographer, I took a photograph. And then I thought, let's try to be more sensitive. So the kids all wanted to look at the pictures. On digital, it's really easy and it's exciting to show them the pictures. But I kept thinking about the boy, and I put my hands on him, and even though I didn't speak the same language, I tried to give him some comfort. Then all the kids ran away, and a man walked up to me, and he said, "Thank you for taking their picture, because then no one can say they didn't exist, that we are all now aware that this is really happening." So, and it makes me think about, many of the things that inspired my line of work has really been from what I've learned about history. And one of the most compelling stories, one of the most important stories, one of the most transformative stories I've been influenced by was knowing that the media did not cover the Holocaust in real time. And I emerged from that awareness, promising myself not on my watch, which is one of the reasons why I focus on genocide and those kinds of stories as a persistent part of what I thought I should be doing in my job. And so I believe that there are thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people in this country who are suffering in this way, who are unheard, who are alone, and are made more alone by their disease. And I just believe in connecting people. You never know what's going to happen. Maybe nothing does, except that you are connected, and that's also important. But that they're not suffering in silence, you see. That's been what I've tried to do, try to not let people do that as much as I can do it as a reporter, as I've tried to do that my entire career.
Yeah, that's your mission. Do you feel like that's your mission?
It is.
So going forward, we have this show, but are there any other stories that you feel like really need to be told or that you're excited to share?
In terms of the show itself, there'll be lots and lots of stories. I do think that we're in a time, and when you talked about journalism, I do feel that there is way too much attention on one story over and over and over again, and that there are many stories in our time that we're not hearing about. And so I hurt for those stories. I hurt for the people whose voices are not being heard. and whether that's in the deep poverty in Southeast Ohio, or whether that's the Syrian refugees who are not really being heard. So I think about those and am looking for projects to do more to bring those voices forward. But right now I'm on this for months to come. And it's really taking a lot of my time because I'm one of the executive producers. So I even actually helped design the couch. So, I mean, not that I'm a couch designer or the set. There's a wonderful set designer for our studio. But I wanted the patients who come on live to our broadcast to feel welcomed. And I knew if you're desperate and you're sick, how intimidating television is anyway. How could we make it less difficult for them? So rather than the set that we were going for, which sort of made the doctors look maybe a little bit like, you're going to go meet the judge. I wanted them to be on the same level as the patients in kind of a circle, right? So that you had like two semicircles facing each other. So it really it is a kind of embrace. So I've been, it's been actually fun to get down to the details. It's been kind of fun.
Producing is something you really enjoy doing, then just having a little more oversight, I guess, or you can have a little more.
I have no interest in being in charge.
No.
Believe me, that's way too much pressure. But I do want things to be responsible and caring. And so to the degree to which I can influence that, I want to influence that.
We do have a couple of questions before we get out of here.
Okay. Oh, have I been talking so long that...
No, you've been talking just the right amount of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The first one comes from Twitter. Skates NYC says, "Good morning, Anne. With complicated medical events, there's often a long road to answers. How does that dynamic work with a live TV format?"
That's a very good question. So we will see in some cases patients over time returning. We also are going to be following all of these cases online on our chasingtheCureLive.com site. But we also, in terms of the live format, the idea isn't to find an answer fast. The question is, how do we find an answer? How do we find a good answer or good possibilities? And so having live really just unleashes that when you're watching, and that inspires you to email or to hashtag or to post or to call us, and we'll be giving you that data. Then we're going to be able to collect more data. It'll take time to go through a lot of that data. But we also it'll be a team of technologists will be receiving that data immediately. And that will go through a system that includes doctors who will be assessing. So if they hear and see something that might be something that we should be talking about on this set, I'll be hearing it in my ear, and we'll be able to tie that circle in real time. So it's really about, I actually, when I first heard this idea, as excited as I was about the possibilities, my first response was really, how do we do this in a manner that puts the patient first? How do we do it ethically, right? So that's what we've built. We've built an effort to really make sure that the patient's needs come first. And if that means that it takes a while to assess certain data, we will. If that means there's some great data we can put through the system and we can get that back in real time, we will. It's really just every major decision is not only influenced by a medical professional, but it's also focused on patient first. And that's the only way I would do it.
And the doctors get their case files ahead of time too, before the live
absolutely.
show. So they have time to sort of dig through and.
We'll exactly right. All the back tests. So they'll come in. We'll have a doctor's meeting. In fact, here's what's really, try to visualize this. So the studio, like this sort of studio, has this sort of area where it's these couches where we're sitting. On the side over here is this room. We call it the Crowd Cure Center. And basically it's a whole bunch of monitors, a whole bunch of young people on those monitors, some older people assessing data, some doctors assessing data, people picking up phones. That's what that room is called, the Crowd Cure Center. Then we have another room, which is a doctor's office, which basically, if we need an examination and the patient gives us permission and and the patient will be told, you don't have to give us permission. We'll give them every way to get out of it. But if they want that to happen, we have a doctor's office where we can in real time do examinations. We have another room where doctors will be meeting and researching and going over data and discussing. So basically what you have is doctors debating with each other what is the right choice. And then there's a fourth room that is essentially where the family will be waiting, a real family waiting room. So that's all surrounding this, so it's all right in this circle like this. And I'm gonna walk into any one of those I need to with the idea that we're gonna put patient first. What's good for the patient, what's good for the patient, what's good for the patient. That's the plan.
I wish that's how our healthcare system actually worked. This will be amazing to see because I feel like so many times the patient isn't put first. So,
well, I think that doctors really struggle to make sure that patients are put first, but they are working in a system that makes it hard to always do it. And one of the things I've learned is that boy, doctors are heroes. I mean, who stands against death for you? Who stands against disease and suffering for you but doctors? You know, and the ones who, what divides them is the ones who really know stuff and the ones who sort of don't know as much stuff, right? So you want one who knows a lot of stuff, who may know a lot of stuff about what you have, right? But in general, they're and I've also learned about patients are also heroic. I mean, they don't give up on their daughters, their parents. Charlie, I told you about, who's diagnosed with 10 diseases. She is fighting to live long enough to make sure she's with those two kids, you know, that they're not going to be left without their mother. And that's heroic, you know, when you can't figure out what's wrong with you and you're just going to keep going and get out of bed for those kids. I have to say, I thought I understood something about this, but I think I've actually, because of this process, you know, gained a lot of respect for both people in the profession and for people who need the profession. And it's really, as you say, it's really trying to figure out how the system can work better for some of them.
who has our first question in the audience?
Hi.
Hi, what's your name?
Savannah.
Hi, Savannah.
Hi. I was just curious how you went about using social media for good and how you would recommend someone do the same.
Well, like I said, human beings are both darkness and light, so is social media, right? And it's a reflection of who we are, and we can make that choice. I've purposely tried to use social media for good. When I feel something could be improved, I've posted about it, and I think that any one of us can do that. I can give you examples of that. In this particular case, just amplifying the needs of others with live television that we're seeing come up through social media is a way of mixing the good that social media can do and making it basically louder so that people can respond to it. But for example, you know, remember when Sandy Hook happened and all those kids were killed? And I was on the story and I was just gutted. I just thought, I mean, these were just little babies, you know, and they were slaughtered. And so in a moment of great angst, I tweeted, what if every one of us could perform an act of kindness to honor every one of those children lost? And that went viral because people wanted to do something. It wasn't because of the tweet, it was because it touched a nerve. People want to be able to use it for good. And so guess what? People started buying coffee for veterans. They started leaving money in Walmarts where the diapers were for families that couldn't afford it. They'd put money on the windshield wipers of cars that looked like they were broken down cars in grocery stores. And this went on and on and on. And people kept saying, people responded back, well, what about we include the teachers? Okay, so it's 20 acts of kindness, 26 acts of kindness. So that became the hashtag 2026 acts of kindness. And then do you know what? You know, I think Sandy Hook was about 5 years ago. Just 2 months ago, a man came up to me at an event where I was doing a poetry reading. Oh, that's another story. But anyway, a man came up to me and he said, I want you to know I never stopped. I'm still doing them. Do you know why? I wish I could say it's just because I'm just so generous. But the truth is that it's made me feel good. It's made me happy. And I don't want to stop, because every time I do something like that, it makes me feel happy. And I don't tell people, I'm telling you because it's all your fault. You started it, right? So that's how we do it. Because I think that we connect deeply where we hope the most and where we suffer the most. We generally don't connect as easily on the middle ground, right? But when we suffer, we are human. There was a Maya Angelou used to quote him all the time. His name was Terence. He lived in the time of the Romans. He was actually a playwright, but he was also a philosopher. And he said something. He said, "I am human, and so nothing that is human is alien to me." When you understand this idea, that I have never met you, I don't know where you were born, I don't know what state you live in, I don't have any idea what job you have, but we are connected because we are human. I can pretty much guess the kind of range of emotions you might be feeling. I can pretty much think about things that you might think about, that nothing is alien to me. Even the things sometimes people laugh at or we mock each other, the truth is that we sometimes laugh because we recognize it as possible, you know? So I think that when you recognize that, then you can be bold on social media for good, because you know that other people will be so upset about something that's wrong and that they'll want to make it right. When things are really bad, I always seek the balance. I don't keep piling on the bad. I head to the other side, because that's how you make the balance. So that would be my best advice. I'm not sure that answered your question, because I kind of went off there, but if it helps, I'll be pleased.
You know, I've written stories at previous jobs about the number of people using crowdfunding to pay for medical expenses. And when you look at the response those posts get, people are just looking for a way to help people through a hard time.
Exactly.
And so when I saw this show, it just looked like a way of elevating that, where you don't have to give money, you can just send positive thoughts or share your own experience. And I think it just further helps somebody going through a trial. So I'm hoping this show has the impact that you're hoping it does, because I really think people are going to be connected to it. And hopefully it helps a lot of people.
Thank you.
Yeah, so if you guys want to check out Chasing the Cure, it premieres at 9 p.m. Eastern on TNT and TBS. And you can also stream it online. And what date? On August 8th.
August 8th. Yeah, it's an all screens thing, and it's also on the website as well, which is chasingthecurelive.com. But yeah, I mean, people are suffering, and together we can help. So I say, let's go, let's do it.
Well,
let's
thank
do
you,
this
Ann.
thing.
Let's
Thank
do it.
you.
I appreciate it, guys. Give it up for Ann Curry.